We're live. This is episode 144. Being recorded a day early due to reasons. We should be back to the usual Wednesday afternoon US time next week.
Yep, this is all because of me. Family obligations tomorrow.
I'll be asking for a day early recording in the next few weeks too. So,
Okay.
not just you, Chill. The rest of us. Life
Yeah.
interferes sometimes. In a good way, in my case. Alright, tweeting this. Okay, that's that. Alright, we'll be starting in a moment. We're just doing our final setup. I haven't actually gone through the grammar of the tips in detail, Chill, so the ones you're going to have to read,
Okay.
you may just want to glance over quickly.
Sounds good. All right. Remind me what SC and KC stand for in the first one.
That's a good question. SC.
I get the idea. I can't remember what the official name is.
Smuggler's coins, kingpin coin, kingpin's coins. The two currencies for the two things you spend in the machines.
Right. I'm just going to change one of them so that I can say that out loud. Otherwise, it's like when we talk about operations and we say, SM, S&V, and all that stuff, and people don't know what the hell's going on. All right.
Okay. Let's move this over here. And
Holy crap! You can actually hack your settings file to make your camera distance.
Yeah, we reported that shortly after launch.
Yeah, I guess I've reinstalled and stuff and lost that setting. I never really reset it.
Yeah.
Because you can make it further, right?
Like
A
way
lot
further,
further.
yeah.
Yeah. I can think of times where I'd like it, but like I said last week, that 95% threshold where little like data pads on tables disappear. It's hard for me to give that up. I like seeing everything.
Spencer, are you recording as of right now?
yes, I am.
All right. And if you're typing, just make sure to mute. Please mute. Otherwise, it's really loud. The rest of us will try
Gotcha.
Okay.
I've learned to minimize my clicking. My mouse is unbelievably loud.
Yes, it is.
It's nice
Red-
though that at least Spencer's keyboard's about the same volume as mine.
I still think you're gonna break it.
It does sound like that. Red, you're recording?
Yes, sir.
And Chill is recording.
I am indeed. Let's get this rolling since we're on a bit of a clock.
We are on a time thingy. All right. When you're ready, Chill?
All right, going in 5 seconds. Hi, and welcome to the OotiniCast, the podcast that would prefer another target, a military target. This is episode 144, being recorded on Tuesday, June 3rd, 2014. I'm your host, Chill, and with me is my co-host, Tio. Hi, Tio.
Hey, guys.
And with us today are Spencer and Red. Spencer, so people might know you from Twitter as the Dirty Spoons. And
Yes, sir.
so tell us a little bit about how you play SWTOR. When did you start, for example?
I actually started a year after the initial launch, about a month after it went free to play.
Okay.
Really, what prompted it was the purchase of LucasArts by Disney. When I started going into seeing some of the properties that they picked up, I saw that BioWare had produced an MMO about Star Wars, and I thought it was KOTOR 3. So I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna get on that. To be perfectly honest with you, I did not realize it was an MMO until I downloaded the client and I started opening it up, and I'm like, wow, this looks a lot like World of Warcraft.
Uh-huh.
So the thing thing that really attracted me was the fact that I really thought it was KOTOR 3, and then when I started playing, I just couldn't stop.
Awesome. Right. So, what do you play normally? What's your main?
Well, actually, my main right now is my Sith sorceress. I'm trying to get her raid ready. I'm trying to build up her ultimate comms and get into some. I've been plugging Dread Palace, Dread Fortress a lot recently. That's become my main. My old main was actually Jedi Sentinel, my DPS, because he was awesome. Because I got him in the black and green lightsaber crystals, and I got him into the got a black and green. I forgot what the ultimate comms top gear was that you could buy without actually going into the raids, and he looked really awesome. But it was really hard to, as a DPS with 0 SWTOR raid experience, to find pugs that were willing to take me. So I switched over to the Imperial side as a healer, which they were starved for healers anyway. So
yeah, Empire
I've
side.
she's seen a lot more action than my DPS.
Awesome. And so, have you also done like PvP or Galactic Starfighter or any of the other parts, or have you stuck mostly to the operations and leveling?
I've done a lot more operations. I did PvP a lot in Season 1 on the Harbinger whenever I could get Qs to pop. Again, I was in my Sentinel. I didn't die as often, but I did not end up getting the 10 ranked matches. I only got 8 ranked matches. I didn't realize it until I got the email afterwards, and I'm like, I thought I got 10, but no. But PvP is not really my strongest suit. I just don't have the. I'm not sure if I got the. I had a really annoying experience the first couple times I tried to PvP when I first started playing this game, and I just it's not as much fun. I really like raids and operations though, and so that's really been my focus the past couple of months.
Okay, cool. When Strongholds come out, are you looking forward to putting up some operation trophies in there?
I am. I'm really looking forward to Strongholds. One of the things that in doing a lot of background into a lot of other SWTOR and Star Wars, I saw some Star Wars Galaxies where there's a lot of people who had some really elaborate houses, and I don't think we're going to get that elaborate, but I'm really looking forward to showing off the few achievements that I have accomplished, and I'm definitely going to have the big house in Nar Shaddaa, which Nar Shaddaa is my favorite planet anyway, so I'm really looking forward to spending a lot of time there.
Yep, and then we'll have to visit Red's place and do an episode of Hoarders there. So.
Spencer,
actually, I want to do an episode of Cribs with Bill.
There we go.
Yeah,
Spencer,
we were wondering about that. I wonder how many staircases Bills will have.
Yeah.
Spencer, you had some thoughts about crafting in Strongholds.
Well, yeah, one of the things that really made me excited about when Strongholds does finally come out is that there's actually going to be something new to craft. We haven't had any new crafting since Scum and Villainy came out, and they raised the level cap and they introduced some new materials. I mean, since then, there's really been no new things to craft, and so I'm really looking forward to seeing if we're actually going to be able to, have a new crafting profession or get some new materials, or at least make some of the less profitable, I'll say, crafting professions a little bit more attractive.
Absolutely.
I guess we've got nothing concrete about it beside the fact that they have confirmed that some things at least will be craftable, decorations for the Stronghold, so surely a new profession might be a little too much to ask for, but certainly adding stuff to all of the existing ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really hoping it's centered on what we've already got, because I've already got all of them.
All right. And Red, how about your week? What you been up to?
I've been having a great week, and I have to share congratulations with Spencer because, hello, he's the first prize winner in my live stream on Twitch. I had enough to drink and definitely got enough people in the chat room. I was yelling at him, we need more people, we need more people. We got enough people in the chat room, and so did random.org or whatever it is, and he ended up winning the prize. So
awesome.
Yeah, your Twitch streams are a lot of fun to watch, Red.
Okay, cool. What'd you win, Spencer?
Actually, I got a TomFon code.
Oh, cool. Excellent.
Yeah, I had an extra one because I've already won that.
Was that from Seattle?
Yeah, it was either Seattle's or the one that I won off of Unnamed Sweater podcast.
Okay. All
One
right.
of those. I've got a couple codes, so and eventually, I don't spend my cartel coins, so I mean, we'll have to see what happens with the strongholds, but I might have to start dipping into my cartel coins and giving out prizes from there because I'm not spending them on myself. I might as well spend them on others, right?
Right.
I did really enjoy doing the interview this Sunday. I got to talk to Keyboard Ninja, and he's awesome. He had some really cool, interesting information, so I'm excited for people to be able to get to listen to that.
Awesome.
Didn't know what I was getting into, and our conversation went a few different directions, and he's just a really knowledgeable fellow, so it was good talking to him.
Excellent.
I've got one piece of Brutalizer left for my
Yeah.
PvP gear, and the reason it's taken a bit of time is because I have to play both the Imperial and the Republic side, because I've been putting it all into Legacy gear, but I bought some of the Obroan on one character and some of the Obroan on another character, and so I've got to play enough to to gear it up, but one piece.
All right.
My pants. So I do really wish that 2.8 was here. I'm very much looking forward to the event because I've been doing lots of dailies and stuff to make money, and I've been really active with all of Bill's original tips and tricks selling stuff on the GTN because I'm ready to dump my credits as quick as I can. And I'm also just really, really looking forward to the class changes, of course. Changes for class changes, especially with everybody knowing that I'm so PvP focused. Those changes are exciting just because some of them have to do with characters I play and some of them have to do with opponents I'm going to have, and class changes are like content. It's good for PvP.
Yeah.
But the biggest thing is I've got 2 cargo holds full of daily and weekly requisition tokens for GSF. And I'm ready to consume those. And since we know the stealth is just delayed indefinitely, these 2 new ships I'm going to consume as soon as I buy those.
All right.
Which will be great. I think I should be able to get... I won't, be full mastery on the brand new ships, but I think I should be able to get full mastery on every other ship.
Wow. That'll be nice.
I did yesterday go ahead and change my spec for the Vanguard. I've never played anything but tactics, ever. So I figured I'd dabble around, see if I could learn how to play it, see how it feels. It's very different. I had to take some time to learn it. I like learning all the trees.
Did you try the dot tree or?
Yeah, the 3rd tree assault specialist. And it's the same thing with like my gunslinger. I really enjoyed sharpshooter. Well, I did saboteur actually for all leveling up, and then when I hit top level, it seemed like sharpshooter was better single target. I played that a lot while I was doing progression, and then I respect into the dirty fighting because I'd heard some numbers, and then that was when previous episodes I've mentioned that I'd found a really cool hybrid build pre 2.0 that was pretty wicked. I like playing with my talent trees and figuring out what I can discover about them. An advanced class is just an advanced class, but they've got 3 trees to learn. So I'm doing that, and of course I know that there's incoming changes. I'd like to know how to play it and then see how it feels in PvP. One of the things I really like about tactics and PvP over assault specialists is there's a lot more utility. I like that utility.
Yeah.
But we'll have to see how the DPS feels. So basically, while I do that, I'm parked on Alderaan because I'm back into doing some achievement hunting, and I'm running around killing strongs and elites because there's a lot of achievements on Alderaan that require you to kill them, not the easy ones.
Okay.
So I've got some rotation paths that I'm walking in circles just over and over killing things. And I've picked up a few achievements, which is good. It feels good to get those popping up again. Did come across in PvP this week the worst gunslinger ever. No exaggeration. Oblivious. Dude had Obroan and Brutalizer PvP items with strength, willpower, absorb, and alacrity on them. Current PvP gear that he'd spent comms on. It was it blew my mind. It was just remarkable. And what's worse is, not a single aim piece. He had some cunning pieces, but not a single aim piece. At least the aim would have helped him a little bit.
Did you point out to him that he may be doing something wrong?
I did. I explained I mean, it was all in the intro, but because I'd been expecting him to encourage him to be the node defender. It was Ancient Hypergates. And then I saw his gear, so I was just rapidly typing out, hey man, listen, primary stat, yours is cunning. Strength, willpower, aim, none of them do anything for you. By the way, absorb is a tank stat. You really can't have any of that on your gear, and alacrity isn't good for a gunslinger. But good luck, let's go.
Did he
I remember
respond?
that. I remember that match.
Yeah, I was streaming that, and the chat room was tripping out a little bit about it. I think even Lori saw that and was cracking up a bit.
Yeah, there was a few people in the Twitch chat that were like, "What is this guy's beard? What?" Because you were just like, "What is what?" There was a lot of whats. There was a lot of whats.
Did he respond, Red?
No, he didn't.
No.
And the nice thing is, I take the image that everybody sees right now on the live stream, I put that camera down over my chat. So when I'm typing in chat and stuff, nobody gets to see it.
Okay.
I'm not very good at reading chat. I've usually got friends that I'm PvPing with. And now, since I'm live streaming, if I'm going to pay attention to any chat, it's my live stream. So,
Right.
But no, he didn't, at least not quickly, which is fine. I certainly wasn't antagonistic. Dude, your gear sucks. No, I just spelled it out real quick.
Okay.
Other than that, though, yeah, yesterday when I went in and tried out the new spec for the first time, I was having an abysmal time. Just having horrible, not getting good numbers out there, and I'd been reading the talents, and like my high impact bolt the cooldown wasn't refreshing, and I was bottoming out on energy, and I was just dying over and over, and it just felt horrible. And so I was like, I'm going to go walk my dog. So I walk my dog, and I pick up my phone, and I tweet out, hey, I'm going to turn on my stream in like 10 minutes when I walk my dog. If somebody could help me with this, I'm terrible. Got in, Ghost Mirror popped in there, and he says, hey, man, I can't stay long, but I'll see if I can help you. And then like 2 seconds later, he says, by the way, why are you in the wrong stance?
Ouch.
Yeah, I'd already done 4 or 5 war zones in the wrong stance at that point. I felt epically stupid. Just and it's true, man. I popped that stance.
Huge
Boom.
difference. Yep.
I have energy. I'm spamming my high impact bolt all the time. People are dying, and I'm not anymore.
High impact bolt is so great.
Oh yeah, it's pretty cool. It's a fun spec actually. Now that tonight I'm actually going to put a lot more time into it. Now, because I only got to play like 1 or 2 matches before I had to hit the sack. But yeah, I'm looking forward to playing with it, fiddling. You know, I may go back to tactics, but I at least want to know the spec before I have to worry about it.
Sounds good. Tio, how about your week?
Let's start with raiding, as we usually do. On our first day, it was our regular 8-man. We did hard mode, Dread Fortress. We got through the first 3 easily enough, and then we had a few goes and Corrupted 0. Didn't really have much time before we had to call it, and no, we didn't get him down. So we have only got him down the once. We promise it wasn't a fluke. Yeah. Anyway, so on day 2, which is Friday night, we actually did our first 16-man run. We brought in 8 more guildmates who had signed up to join us, and due to some lockout conflicts, including us who locked us out of Dread Fortress, we did hard mode Scum and Villainy as we thought. A nice easy run, but of course it is a 55 hard mode, which means it's easier than the Dreads, but not that easy. So we only did the first 3 encounters. We did Dash Rude, which is a sandstorm boss. Sorry, Spencer. You gonna ask something? Okay.
What?
That's all right.
Yeah.
The first boss, Dash Rude, that's a sandstorm boss. He is roughly the same as in 8-man, and we one-shot that. No problem at all. That was relatively easy. The second boss, or the second encounter, is Titan 6, the big robot that jumps around. That's where you have to periodically hide behind the rocks. So we discovered, or I was informed, that the only actual difference between 8 and 16-man is in hard mode, you can only hide behind 1 rock in 8-man. In 16-man, 2 people can hide behind any given rock each time he does his launch ability. And I thought, oh wow, that could be disastrous, but it turns out that it was quite easy to arrange. One of our guildmates suggested that everyone pick a rock before we start, and that would be like their default rock each time he launches, and that worked out pretty well. Aside from that, mechanics roughly the same, and so it did take us a couple of goes, I think, to get that one down.
Mm-hmm.
But we got that too. Finally, Thrasher, the third encounter. That's a big guy with the snipers that turn up around the balcony, which you have to kill.
In a Colosseum sort of setting.
Yep, and that turned out to be almost to our undoing. The tactics are pretty much the same as 8-man. As in, you need to make sure that when he roars, it's roaring on the snipers that have appeared to break their shields. And you need people to be knocked up there to help take them out. Assuming that you don't have enough range to do it from the ground. And we didn't. I think we were roughly 1/3 range, 2/3 melee for our DPS. Anyway, we eventually got it sorted. The real trick to it is that you need to send as much melee or as much DPS up there as possible. It's not really a race against an enrage. You need to control the snipers. You need to kill them quickly, otherwise they will burn your raid. And so once we finally figured that out, it was actually quite easy.
Mm-hmm.
And then we finished up with hard mode, Tomorrow's Courtyard.
Yes.
And we one-shot that. This was the first time we've ever completed hard mode.
Right.
Of course, it was 16 versus 8, and yeah.
That makes all the difference.
Yeah, it was actually trivial easy compared to 8-man, which is ridiculous.
Brutal. Yeah.
Yep. Aside from that, yesterday we ran 3 hard mode flashpoints back-to-back. This is with Turg, Pez, and Spencer, just to get the weekly done, basically, before the resets. And we got Katamimu, again, as I did last week. Circa Corporate Labs and Hammer Station, easy peasy with a group. We're not going to talk about the wipe on the last boss in Katamimu.
What wipe? There was no wipe. I don't know what you're talking about.
That was unfortunate. Aside from that, it was all pretty straightforward.
Right. Was it basically just getting caught with the bindings, basically?
Effectively, yes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the mechanic. So it's good to know it's at least semi, still important to follow the mechanic.
A number of things went wrong in an unfortunate way. Just, I was tanking on my Guardian, which I'm really enjoying, actually. So that was cool. And also, with Ari, we tried to get the plus 10 endurance datachron on Makeb, following Kuzei's most excellent video step by step. He got us maybe 4/5 of the way, and then we screwed up a jump, and it was all over. And then you get teleported right. Well, when you res, you're right back at the start, and so screw it. We'll try again today, maybe. We'll see how that goes. Anyway, that's my week. Over to you, Chell.
All right. First, a shout out to the chat room. Let's see. Karanome here. Spoons is here. Draco. Gaddock Teague of the Unnamed SWTOR podcast is here. Ghost Mirror. Rikiri. Slager. SWTOR Miner is here. The Hatfield. Casmus. Dread. And Prothole. So, hi, everyone. And let's see. Of course, did the operations. Then Saturday was basically a full day of overtime. So, yeah, pretty tired this weekend. However, I did get my Sage through all of Ilum, so started off early level 49 and ended up halfway through 50, only doing the main stories, not really picking up any of the side quests. I know that would have been obviously very good for experience and so on, but I just wanted to get it done. So, finished that up, got back to the fleet, and next up will be Makeb, but did not actually start Makeb yet. Except, of course, at level 47, I went and grabbed the main hand by doing the breadcrumb quest. So that was that. And that will bring us to the tip of the week. And we have 4 of them. We'll start off with one from Hagu Pally. And he writes, based on SWTOR Miner's Reddit numbers, a tale of 2 strategies. If you buy Kingpin coins for 50,000 and play without the Feeling Lucky buff, then you would average 1,429 Kingpin coins per Rancor, 7.145 million credits. If you buy smuggler coins, win Kingpin coins, and then play when you're lucky, then 2.346 million credits should get you a Rancor, as well as 3.3 opuses and 81 GCs, whatever. I don't remember what all that stands for. But anyway, instead of 7.145, it'd be 2.346 million. So the tip is buy the smuggler's coins and only spin your Kingpin coins when you're lucky. If you spend 1,000 credits on one chip, the odds are a bit under 7,000 to 1 to win a Rancor. Oof. There's even a chance to win 2 Rancors starting with a single chip. Long odds, but if 200,000 players use the slots, then 30 may win a Rancor with a single 1,000 credit smuggler coin. The number who will claim to do so in the chat and forums will probably be higher. Also note that selling a cartel pack and getting 360,000 credits, which will get you about 60 Kingpin coins, is much better than opening a pack and hoping for a certificate to get a Kingpin coin. And tip number 3, don't open a pack to try. So tip number 3, don't open a pack to try to get the Kingpin coins. Note that one hypercrate sold for 8.8 million credits should provide 3.46 Rancors, 12 opuses, and 290 GCs, which would provide another 19 opuses. So better than the Bantha odds. Tip number 2. I'm not sure how these numbers are going around, but
Chill, get me to read that one.
Oh, and that one's no, that one's not Corwin's.
Oh, sorry.
That still is. Yeah, that's just the numbers are going sideways on us for some reason. Let's see. Come to the November Vegas Cantina, where the state of Nevada will probably provide you with a postgraduate education in probability and free drinks. Tip number 3, unlike other resource nodes, clicking on a Ricotta Energy cube when your bags are full will not give you an error message and will consume the cube. Luckily, you will get the cube back in your mail.
Oh,
Very cool.
Didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh.
All right. Our second tip is from Corwin again of the Prophecy of the 5 server, and he says, this week I wanted to discuss camera zoom. Have you ever been in a Civil War match and wondered how the fight is going at another node? Maybe wondered just where the opposing team is in a Novar coast? Perhaps even been in a Void Star and wanted to easily see both doors to make sure nobody is planting? Perhaps you've been in an operation and been wondering just what is going on in a fight? Or maybe you just wanted to take in the scenery. If so, you may have concluded that the default maximum zoom that SWTOR allows is not a very long distance. I certainly did. It turns out some creative souls back in the early days did too, and they, bless them, found a way to zoom out further. A little, a lot, pick your poison. You can have it all. And so, if you navigate to your SWTOR's local files, and this is a directory under app data, I'll put the exact file and location into the show notes. And the one you open, which is your account name _account, has a setting called controls_camera max distance equals. And the number by default is 25, and Corwin has set his to 225. He says you can zoom out further after modifying this, but make sure to modify it with the game closed. As with all things, this may take some getting used to, but can be quite useful. And judging by the examples that he gave us above, like find out what's happening at another node in Novar Coast, it seems like you can zoom out really far. Now, Chill, when we were discussing this earlier, you did mention that we had talked about this way in the early days, and I do vaguely remember that, but I guess I never changed this, because there is a setting in the regular preferences where you can change it from the default out some, but this is way more. So yeah, I'll be tweaking this and just seeing what you can do.
All right. The third tip is from Ludwig van Cover on the Republic side of the Ebon Hawk. Hey, I am the original author. If you've seen the Reddit post and then there's a link to a Reddit post about SWTOR.com has a lot of information about you. And the tip of the week, need to know what gifts your companions like, why they lose affection to certain conversation choices, or just want to know who you can romance? Go to swotor.com. This gem is pretty much hidden away, but it's very helpful. swotor.com/holonet/companions. And you can see all the following. On that page, hearts are the companions you can romance. When you're viewing a companion page, you can see what gifts they use, including their rating, such as like or love. And you can see what affects their dialogue affection gains. I hope you enjoy this tip.
Our fourth tip is from Caligari, and he says just a few little things to help out. First, if your /ignore list is full, look through it and delete all the names that end with _E1. This means that they have not logged in quite some time, and their name has been flagged for renaming, so they will doubtfully be back.
Right.
Which means they were basically merged sometime, or they were renamed last time there was a merge, which was a long time ago. Now, I don't know if you can get this generally, but certainly with the Guildmaster settings, you can find out when everyone last played. So if the Guildmaster at least, you can actually sort by that. And the reason this came up is Caligari was in Guild when I did my first purge of Utini Knights. We were actually one or two off filling up 500 characters.
Wow.
So I had to kick about 50 players, or 50 accounts, 50 characters who hadn't been played for about a year, or within a year or something like that. So that brought us back down to 450. So yeah, and in doing so, a number of those _E1s turned up. Anyway.
Knights and Rage, or just one side?
Just Knights. And Chill, you apparently had a character called Chill Saber, who I'd kicked before realizing. So
That's
sorry
okay.
about that.
Yeah, it's been a long time since I played him.
We'll have to bring him back in.
Sentinel, as I recall. Yeah.
Okay. And Caligari's second tip: when sorting by price or another column on the GTN, if you find the UI unresponsive, that is a column you won't sort, just click on another column header like seller and then try the column you want again. This usually clears it up for me.
Yeah.
It's a kind of nasty bug. Anyway,
right.
Good tip.
Yeah, I've done that too. Basically, especially if it's basically when you're clicking on price per item, and sometimes that one's non-responsive. So I click on overall price, and then I go back to price per item, and it works fine. So yeah, Caligari's right on that one. All right, well, by random allotment, the winner is Hagu Pali. So congratulations, Hagu Pali. You'll be receiving one of the latest M8 R3 codes, courtesy of BioWare, and an OotiniCast provided cartel market pack from the latest shipment. So please send your tips to OotiniCast at Gmail. Excuse me. Please send your tips to OotiniCast@gmail.com by next Wednesday, when we normally record. In this case, it'd be 8 days from today, for a chance to win the same. And that will bring us to the holofeed. Tio?
All right. Let's start with. Let me preface this with really not much news.
Okay.
So, anyway, the PTS was closed earlier this week for Game Update 2.8 ahead of its release, which should be next Tuesday, 10th of June. That's been predicted for a while. There's no reason to believe they're going to delay it, at least at this point. Anyway, so what happened, we had a live stream last week where Rob Hinkle joined Eric Musco, and they basically highlighted a lot of what was coming. So we're just going to go through some brief notes I took while watching the live stream, and then we'll go through the rest of the Game Update 2.8 patch notes, which was the initial ones for the PTS, and then there were 3 different updates, so I've just incorporated it all together into a single set of notes. So of course there'll be the full-on notes next week with the actual patch, which probably includes a few things weren't made aware of. So anyway, during the live stream, this was mainly Musco talking. He went through the group finder changes. This is where they have changed where you can queue up for operations. 8-man is no longer available. You can only choose to queue up for a 16-man story mode operation via the group finder. The reward for completing it, and it has to be completing it, is 30 ultimate comms, which is actually not too bad.
Yeah.
You do not get a choice of the operation. I did have a look on the PTS. It effectively will rotate. According to Musco, he says it will be every 3 days. It will be a different one of the available 7 operations. So what have we got? Eternity Vault, Karaga's Palace, Explosive Conflict, Terror from Beyond, Scum and Villainy, Dread Fortress, Dread Palace. All story mode, all 60-man, and you've no choice. It will just randomly, it'll be every 3 days, and that's for everyone. It's like a server-side choice. Every 3 days, it'll be a different one that people can queue up for.
So anything from relatively difficult for the last 2 to dead easy if you get EV or Karagas.
Well, even Eternity Vault, if you don't really know what you're doing when you're dropping down through those levels. And
or even the first boss, he can be a pain. Or the puzzle boss, for Pete's sake.
Oh god. Well, yes. And I was thinking the minefield and the explosive conflict is another example. That could be challenging, but yeah, well, we'll see. Pugs will be pugs. I suppose the thing is you could get 30 ultimate comms in theory every 3 days, like you wouldn't have to wait for a weekly lockout or anything. So that's we'll see. As mentioned previously, they will be bolstering players up. So regardless of your gear, you'll be whatever they deem appropriate for a story mode 16-man. And he did reiterate there are no current plans for cross-server for PvE or PvP, though he did make a point to say never, but it is never on the roadmap. And as we've talked about before, about all they could effectively do is consolidate all of the servers, be it virtually or whatever, so you could actually queue across realms within a given data center. So like all the West Coast could, in theory, cross-server together without too much, in theory, problems for them. We'll see.
This is what I've been thinking about. They need to take every single server of a type, PvP, PvE, RP, whatever, put it onto a single server in the center of the United States. Done.
Yeah,
of course, that adds like
of
25 ping to you, but...
It does, and I've heard that a lot of games are doing this. They're choosing a data center in Texas, apparently, which is why IT, etc. is booming in Texas, because that is somewhere that is apparently fairly centrally located.
Well, and it helps that Texas or Kansas City, they both got that Google Fiber now, which is ridiculous.
Yeah. Yes, they do. We also have a lot of space.
That's true as well. All right, now they also talked about class changes, and this was mainly Rob Hinkle talking. Now, he did mention where they actually get the ideas for improving the skill trees. And for example, they did sort of pick on 4 for the 2.8 changes. And they sort of go for the low-hanging fruit, the ones that are relatively easy to improve, where they're already pretty sure they know what's needed from their own internal discussions and from the forums and other venues. And that's how they pick. So they're going through and revamping them all over time, but they will go for the ones that they're sure that where they know what is needed. So that's just kind of roughly their own strategy. He did talk about, this is Rob Hinkle, talk about UI improvements, specifically tracking your own dots that are on a given target. Because if there's someone else of the same class, whatever, the dots look exactly the same. It's the same buff icon that appears on them, or debuff icon. In his words, he says, I agree that our capacity to really easily tell when/if your particular dots are on a target is pretty rough. We have some ideas on how to adjust that kind of thing, but honestly, they are probably still a long way out. Someday, though. Someday.
Okay.
Yeah, coming. He talked about hybrids, and their philosophy is that they're hard to test. They do check the popular ones that turn up, whether they're being overpowered. And if they're too powerful, they will nerf it. For example, the Madness/Lightning hybrid is probably going to get a bit axed. And of course, there was the dot smash build, which they have now disabled in 2.8.
Right.
Yeah.
Back to the UI thing, the one thing that's interesting is they only reference the DPS being able to tell their own dots. Honestly, one of the biggest quality of life improvements that they need to do is UI customization for healers.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
Wow,
I mean, DPS, yeah, it might be a pain, but deal with it. You can figure out from your own priority how often you need to be putting up those dots, but
yeah.
healers need some love.
It's effectively the same change, being able to pick your buffs, pick your debuffs on enemies. It's effectively the same change. As long as you get that, whatever it is, even if they're just like slightly bigger, your own,
Right.
in the raid frame and the target
Yeah.
frame and everything
Yeah.
else,
Or
that
an
would do it.
outline, whatever.
Whatever, it doesn't matter. They know what's needed. They just have to take the time to do it.
Well, I mean, frankly, for me as a DPS, in most circumstances, I'd just rather be able to turn off everybody else's. Only see mine.
Yeah, that would help too. Anyway, back on hybrids, they reckon it's okay for the hybrid builds. They don't mind them. They just don't want them to be the only way to play a given class. So yeah, they don't mind if you muck about, but they don't want it to be better than an actual full-on go all the way up a given tree. All right. Also in 2.8, he talked about the chance to always the immunities that's supposed to grant 100% immunity, and how there was still that chance you still get hit anyway, the 5% chance. They have fixed that. We've mentioned that previously. When they're talking about balancing the DPS classes, they do want roughly the same amount of DPS for every single tree, for every single advanced class. That is a DPS tree. Each class, though, also has utility, and so what they want to do is roughly the same amount of DPS, and then have roughly the same amount of utility. But of course, utility is somewhat subjective in its applicable usefulness in PvP versus PvE is always going to be different.
Yep, and one boss fight to another.
Exactly.
Well, and how do you say roughly the same amount of DPS if one is more AoE specific? Do they actually want it to be single target comparable to a single target spec?
The way they've talked before, they really have made some AoE heavy, some single target heavy, some burst heavy. So how they make that comparison, who knows between those two.
Yeah, I mean, like, as classically as a gunslinger saboteur tree, the second tree, it's obviously, I mean, that's excellent for leveling because you can just wipe the board of groups, but I would never want to take it into an operation. That just seems foolish.
Well, once we have dual spec, it'll be that much easier to switch between, like with my Sentinel, being able to switch between Watchman and Focus, or the Smash build, would be ideal, because that's my single target and my AoE.
Yeah, and I use field respecialization anyway.
Yep.
But as a sub, since that's free, that's kind of easy.
Now, as far as Madness Sorks go, they acknowledge that they are getting some huge numbers in terms of DPS damage done in 8v8 war zones, and they're pretty happy with that because, and listening to him, yeah, I wasn't particularly convinced. They do seem overpowered, but he reckons those big fat numbers don't actually reflect that they're really that good.
Yeah.
Right, well, any dot spec is, you can put up big numbers, but if you're not actually getting the kills,
True that.
That's why I always check on my Madness Sork. I always look at the damage number, yes, but I always look at how many actual kills I got, and sometimes it's quite low, so it varies a lot.
Massive numbers stress healers and allow others to finish and burst them. I mean, you don't have to get kills in order to be truly functional in a war zone.
Yeah, yes, and that's true. But also it's also harder to get the big numbers in arenas. So for ranked.
Oh, they're devastating in ranked.
Their decisions are certainly data-driven, so they are looking every week at the data that they're seeing from the war zones. So if anything sticks out, then they will look at it and will adjust. And as we've commented previously, all this goes out the window with 3.0 and the new X-Pack whenever that comes, and gives you ask 5 more levels, which will just screw up everything, unless it really is a very clean linear increase. Yeah. Yeah, anyway. Alright, so we do have the patch notes. Let's just roughly go over it, because this is coming... Wow, it is only just next week, isn't it? Let me just make sure I haven't screwed up the date. Yep, it is this coming Tuesday, so our next show will be after this has gone live. Alright, so obviously the casino event, and did play it a bit more on the PTS just before they closed it, and my assessment remains the same. It is terribly boring. There's just nothing exciting there, but it is an amazing time waster. It is perfectly mindless, the kind of thing you can just do while you're talking to friends or listening to a podcast or anything. And I'm honestly looking forward to it. The event will be here for 2 months, so there's no particular hurry. Something I wasn't clear about, the Opus, whatever it's called, Speeder, the kind of boxy-looking thing. Firstly, it looks really good. There are 2. The one that you can purchase for the 15, whatever they're called.
Golden tickets?
Golden tickets or whatever?
Thank
Golden
you.
coins?
Golden certificates. Will cost 15, and it's this appalling blue. Appalling. It's just terrible.
Okay.
And, well, some people might like it, but I thought it was terrible. However, there is also a black one, and that is the one you win via jackpot on the Kingpins machines.
Okay.
Exactly the same model, but it's black and looks awesome. Just awesome. So I won 3 of those when I was testing it out on the PTS.
All right.
So anyway, there are the different 2. The different awards...
Did you ever see the Rancor mount?
I did not.
Okay.
Because the chance of winning that is... the post that Squirtle Miner worked out was, let's just say, was really unlikely. But if you're playing a lot over 2 months, you probably will end up getting it anyway.
Okay.
The actual prizes, there is a recharge item where you actually a rest and recharge item to get your health back. It actually pops up a hollow slot machine, and you're actually there playing it. There's a few emotes as you're rubbing your hands as you're waiting for it, and then that's kind of cool. There's also one of the little mini pets, the floating tray with the drink vendor thing, and the cool part about it, as it follows you, it drops occasional coins, or the smuggler's coins that are the thing to drive the machines, which is kind of cool as well.
So it'll actually function? It'll actually have a function in the...
No, it's purely for effect, just dropping the coins off its little tray that it's carrying. That's kind of cool as well. And of course, the one where everyone should get is the Han Solo-like Blaztech blaster pistol. Is one you can get. That is just amazing. That is what I will be getting several of, I suspect. Anyway, that's coming next week. There are the 2 casinos for each faction. I did check out both. They are absolutely identical. Okay. No difference. Nothing. So you've seen one, you've seen the other.
All right.
And
most of those end game, or like the mounts and so on, are bound to legacy. You can win a second one and send it to an alt.
Yes, and they are not in collections, as you would expect.
Right. Yep. But at least it gives you an incentive to win more than one. So
Indeed.
What about the items that come off of the vendors that you turn in the certificates for? Are those legacy transferable? Like the weapons and the gear?
I thought that's what she was talking about.
Yeah, all that stuff.
All that stuff is Binder Legacy.
Okay.
Yeah. The golden certificates themselves are also Binder Legacy, so you can move them between your alts if you're just running the event one.
Yeah, I don't know why you wouldn't just have one character go there and be the designated slot puller.
Designated gambler. Yep. Yeah, good point. There's not like getting any experience out of it or anything like that. So.
Right. I'm planning on making it probably my 55 sorcerer, so she could do high-end crafting.
Yeah.
While I just, sit there and pull slots for a while.
That's a good idea, actually. Alright, Nightmare Mode Dread Palace will be available for the Progression Raiders to bash their heads against for a while. And of course, the Nightmare Power buff is being removed from Dread Fortress Nightmare Mode. So, at least in theory, as of next week, we'll be doing Nightmare Mode instead because the bosses won't hit any harder, etc. But the gear will be better, and we just got to deal with the extra mechanics. So, well, we'll see how that works out for us. But
Right.
And also remember, Hard Mode and Nightmare Mode are on separate lockouts. So in theory, you could run them twice, Hard Mode and Nightmare Mode. So
Okay.
we'll see how that goes. Alright. Just a couple of other things I'll just mention in passing. The addition to the shadow options in the preferences, there's two now, Shadow Map Cascades and Shadow Map Resolution. Cascades, and both these options can only be accessed if your shadow quality is set to high rather than low or off, obviously. Shadow Map Cascades, it's got three settings: medium, high, very high. And what it does is reduce the fuzziness of your shadows. So they're kind of a bit blobby if it's on medium, and they're really sharp once they're up to very high. Oh, so yeah. And then Shadow Map Resolution, that's a number between 1024 2048, and that increases the sharpness even more. So if you get both of those completely maxed out, your shadows look fantastic. Really, really clear, and the edges are really, really sharp. It didn't affect my frame rate when I was tweaking these options, and you can change them without having to reset your UI, or your UI doesn't reset itself, so you can actually play with those and just see how it goes. But yeah, worth checking. As from what I recall, the defaults for it will be based on your current graphics card, so you may have to tweak it up to see what happens. Also, let's see. Alright, just quickly running through the other ones. We won't go through the class changes in too much detail, just because it turns out they haven't really changed that much. They have actually followed through with the philosophy of the various changes they told us about. For example, for Sentinel and Marauders, the Watchman left-hand tree, they have made it a little less RNG dependent. They have made the ramp up quicker, so I may actually switch back to this, at least for single target fights, because it should just make it that much more awesome. Yeah, and they have, as I mentioned earlier, made sure that the dot smash build is no longer accessible by making one of the abilities, I think it was the overcharge, stance specific, because Watchman you run in duo, and Smash Spec you run in Shicho form.
Okay.
So, oh well. The big change for the Guardians was Focus Defense, the thing that gave you 10 charges each time you were hit, it heals you. It lasted for 30 seconds, which meant you were pretty much always getting those 10 charges used up. In the 30 seconds, they've reduced it to 10 seconds. So you still get the 10 charges, so each time you hit, you will be healed, but you can only use however many charges you get hit within 10 seconds. So
is that the only change that they made to it? They still get just as much for every stack?
Yes.
It's terrible.
No, 10 seconds is not long. I mean, if a ton of people are beating on you, maybe, but if you're going 101...
10 seconds is a really, really long time to not do anything to them, and unless you've got a really talented mez with a whole team that can just back off of him, you might get 8 seconds. But it's still... They need to tone it down. I mean, they literally can heal the full. They're better than sages. I know there's a cap. Nobody needs to correct me on that. It doesn't actually take you to full.
Right. Now, with the right-hand tree for sages and sorks, they did make a few changes to this to ramp up its damage a little. This is intended to boost their performance in PvE, and in fact may make this a stronger spec in PvE. And of course, we'll have a bit of a follow-on effect on PvP as well. It doesn't apparently change the way the class is played.
It's just buffing them. They're deadly already, and PvP is going to go so haywire.
I should note that May of ToroCast did a blog post where she actually gave some detailed commentary on all of these class changes. So I'll link to that as well. It's worth reading if you really want to know what was changed. A few changes for Shadow, and this is again the right-hand tree, which is the least played. They've done a bunch of stuff to try to buff it. How effective that will be, who knows? A couple of things is Force Lift or Whirlwind has been reduced, so its cast time goes down by a second. It's a proc, I believe, which is kind of cute. Could be quite annoying in PvP, of course. And I believe they also changed it so that the knockdown, when you actually do that initial attack, it's not longer a knockdown, it's now a stun, which lasts only 1.5 seconds, but it is now also an interrupt, which is kind of weird because I thought it would have interrupted anyway.
Must be a PvP thing, or sorry, PvE thing for things that are immune to stuns, but not to interrupts.
Right, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So anyway, we'll see how many people switch to the right-hand tree for their assassins or shadows. Also for troopers, they made a bunch of what are effectively buffs for both the tanking tree and which should actually improve their damage, just their damage output, and for the assault specialist tree, which is that the right-hand red?
Yeah.
For which one?
Vanguard.
Yes, assault specialist is right-hand side.
I thought they were already doing pretty well, but this may make them a little even more overpowered.
But this is definitely a PvE change. There's sustainability and viability as a contributor because they were like under 10%, 10% below. PvE, sustained DPS for Vanguards is just hurting, and this is their first steps to making that happen.
All right. Oh, and what I was talking about earlier about the jarring strikes actually refers to scoundrels. So scoundrels have been changed. So knockout now also affects shoot first to interrupt the target. Allows it shoot first to interrupt the target. So, right, it's now become an immobilize rather than a knockdown, and now they've changed it so it does actually interrupt. Okay. So you don't just immobilize them, you also interrupt them. So it's not a stun, so they're still just locked in place, but now it does actually
it's also interrupting, yeah.
That's good, though.
Mm.
I mean, I'm sure they still want their stun back, but at least this way...
If you do it against a hero,
it's stopping what they're
casting,
doing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And they also added a couple of survivability changes that are apparently mainly for PvE. So
is that interrupt
healing.
like Guardian or Sentinel Leap? Or is that an interrupt that blocks them for 4 seconds? Do you know?
I don't know.
Okay.
All right, and let's see, anything else? Bunch of other changes for operations, etc. And rewards have been increased for everything in terms of the ultimate comms or elite comms that you will get. A few mode balancing adjustments for Palace, for Nightmare, just to make sure. Yeah, don't worry about that. Skip that. Galactic Starfighter, they've added the two new variants of both the gunship and the bomber. Geez, we're really not playing that enough to really comment, which is a bit sad.
They're good.
Yep, and fleet comms, which were the reward for the old space game, are now also being rewarded for the Galactic Starfighter dailies and weeklies. So you can actually start getting fleet comms that way to spend on the existing vendors, and what's on those vendors has been cleaned up a bit, consolidated the crafting boxes, etc., etc.
Yeah, that's actually pretty cool.
Yeah. Finally, sorry.
I was gonna say, are they moved the vendor for the old space comms, didn't they? Or are they still in the same part where the appearance generator, the appearance vendor used to be?
They're still where they were across from the speeder vendor. They've been there all along, so it's pretty much the same.
This will be good. I noticed that it says Does it say the weekly too? Oh, it is daily and weekly. Okay.
Alright. Finally, Items and Economy just mentioned that Relics, the procs were apparently screwing up, and that's all been fixed now. So hopefully Relics are all good. And that's pretty much it. Alright, not much else in the news. Chat bug, that's been mentioned a few times. Seems to mainly be with /say, but it's also appearing in other places where you just use it and it just seems to break, just not work anymore, whatever. And it turns out in 2.8 there was a bug that they're fixing that has to do with how the spam filter handles /say messages to the opposite faction. That was the root cause of the issue. Somehow it was messing up. So anyway, /say, etc. should be okay now in 2.8. And finally in the news, there was a second Galactic Living Series video just released today when we're recording. It highlights the Coruscant Skyrise apartment, which will be the stronghold you can purchase obviously on Coruscant. And it's only quite short, less than a minute. There's no voiceover, and you just get a little tour of the apartment. A couple of things of note that I saw. There's a glimpse of a garage which has a bunch of speeders on display, so that's cool. There's another scene where you can see a whole bunch of cosmetic pets in one area, so clearly you can, as they've talked about previously, you can have them all out. There's a few other scenes. Clearly there's lots of place to put all your crap. Again, there is no indication of how said crap placement occurs, but I'm sure they'll tell us shortly, because it'll basically 2.5 months until this comes out on 19 August. So not far away.
Do you think they'll put this onto the test server beforehand?
I hope so. No hint, but geez, I hope so, because I suspect there will be bugs they need to get out of this.
Yeah, I kind of suspect, since they haven't actually shown us or told us anything about how the placement and everything is working, they might be still working on that pretty hard.
Musco says it's really awesome.
Yeah. Well, the additional stuff that comes with it is what I'm psyched about, but I do like to call back to Musco said that GSF would be awesome, and everybody was madly skeptical about it, and Eric was right, so I'm counting on him to be right again this time.
Let's hope so. Alright. Oh, I will just mention that Thursday, 12 June, next week, the next Community Cantina will be in Los Angeles. So that's Thursday, 12 June next week. And that's the news.
All right, that'll bring us to the Community Corner. We'll start with the Utini Templars rating report. This will be from Greg. Hey guys, this week for something different we decided to go and do a full clear of Scum and Villainy. It had been nearly 12 months for all of us since we did any bosses past the weekly. It all went very smoothly, even with Betty eating moose instead of healing while we were fighting the droids in the Olak the Shadow fight. Once we had finished Scum and Villainy, we headed over to Primal Destroyer on Belsavis and quickly downed him for quite a few of us to advance the vehicle quest. On Thursday night, we decided to do our own +10 Datacron run. A few of us needed it still on alts and couldn't make it on the weekend. I learned a few things that night. 1. Bringing alts along and logging them out on the other side of the bridge is very handy if someone dies by falling off when you're all in position. And 2. If Ari is required to platform, you should ring alts to stand over to the other side of the bridge. After some time and a lot of laughs, several of us got the Datacron on multiple alts. Since we still had a little time left, we headed to Hoth to further advance our annoying log-clogging vehicle quests, killing Gargith, and then heading over to Belsavis to kill Primal Destroyer again. As always, if someone is interested in coming along for a laugh on either Templar's night, hit me up on Twitter at GregCarter78 or on the OotiniCast forums. Cheers, guys. Have a great week. Greg. P.S. Cheers for the Tip of the Week win. I'd like to donate my prizes back to the next winner. All right, Greg. And Tio, you have some guild happenings for us.
Pretty much the only thing to cover is our Utini lottery that Draco announced last week. He has picked this week's winner for those who entered last week. First prize, the latest cartel pack, goes to Chrysania. Second prize is a full set of Scout Trooper armor for Manny. So congratulations, guys. So we're not really sure whether to continue the lottery. The problem is we actually got insufficient entries, so the amount that was added to the guild bank, which is how you enter, was actually less than we would have got for actually selling the items directly on the card on the GTN and then putting that money into the guild bank. So that's a bit unfortunate. So we're not sure how to proceed. What we may do, a couple of ideas. We could raise a price of entry from like 20k to 50k or something. We could just run the lottery until we get sufficient funds to actually make it worthwhile to pick a winner. That's probably over 2, 3, 4 weeks, something along those lines. We're not really sure, so we'll see how it goes, and we'll announce what's happening on our forums.
All right. That'll bring us to the force feedback where we read out your tweets and emails. Chong wrote in, and of course this is Moff Chong. When do I get my dollhouse for my dolls? I want to play dress up with Greggles.
So, Chong, Galactic Strongholds will be released with Game Update 2.9 Early Access on 19 August. Then you will get your dollhouse and can play dress up.
There we go.
And if you're not a subscriber yet, July 15th, you need to be a subscriber before then to get your 3 rooms.
Yeah,
not 5.
All right. Morgawsi wrote, my main is a sorcerer healer. I'm not for the suggestion of the consumption ability not costing life, as I don't find it hard to manage, but that said, to use it right, I need to keep myself shielded for the hot and keep my other hot up on myself in order to be able to use the consumption as needed. So I do see how it would help. If I don't, I need 2 global cooldowns to keep those hots up, and then I'm using them on my group. So it would help, and if you're using consumption without the proc stacks, of course you kill your force regen. So there is a downside / cost. You can't just spam it, as you guys would say. So it's not as overpowered or dumb a suggestion as you guys seem to think. Just my 2 cents.
Fair enough.
All right. Yeah, it's true. It's easy to forget about that proc, although you gain it as part of your rotation. So yeah, you couldn't spam it, but it comes pretty easily. At Bera_dur, hidden achievement from Festival of Splendor, quality assurance.
Yeah, and apparently you get it for blowing up, I think it was 30 machines. Unfortunately, the screenshot is low res, and I can't actually remember what it was in the original version.
Okay.
That sounds like an extraordinary amount.
How often do you blow up a machine?
I don't remember.
It seems to be on par with getting a ranker mount.
Yeah, it's unlikely.
Well, when I tried it in the PTS, I was able to blow up 2 machines in about 4 hours.
Okay. Was that playing non-stop? Just continually hitting them?
Yeah. Basically what I did was I went through and I bought $2 million in credits, and I went through them I was going through them, and in 4 hours of, I really enjoyed the spinning machine, and I was trying to get a Rancor, but in 4 hours I think I blew up 3 machines and got 0 Rancors. So it's a little bit more often than the Rancor.
Okay.
So let's see, if you want to do that 30 times, 40 hours?
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah, that's
in 2 months.
2 months, granted. Some people will get it, but that's...
Yeah, but think about the credits too, man.
Well, I didn't go
blue
through
ones.
Are you breaking out in a cold sweat there, Red?
Yes, I am.
Remember, the way to play this is to purchase the Smuggler's Coins of blue ones, which are only 1,000 credits each, and you get back a ton from the actual winnings as you're playing. And yeah, the thing you don't want to buy is the purple Kingpin's coins for 50,000, because that would be an incredible waste of money. So,
well,
yeah.
I was playing with house money on the PTS, so it was good. But I think that you can blow up the cheaper machines as well. So it's not as much money in live as it is on the PTS.
Right.
If you do it right.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, when you blow up a machine, it's kind of cool.
That does sound like fun, actually. I'm sure it'll happen. I'll definitely be trying this. Nathaniel Starr wrote, "It's sad that Red had to jump ship to the Vanguard and ditch a sniper. He can't make it work. Why does he need an overpowered class for PvP? Is he going the OP Assault Specialist come 2.8? Why not persevere with a sniper? Red used to rave about his sniper. Do you think maybe
Hang on.
BioWare...
Let Red respond.
Okay.
So I don't actually have a sniper, so I really can't comment to that. No, I'm just kidding. My gunslinger. It actually had nothing to do with my performance in PvP when I stopped playing my gunslinger. I stopped playing my gunslinger because they started nerfing the gunslinger left and right. Some of it directly at the gunslinger, and some of it as a result of changes that they were making to the scoundrel. They also stated quite clearly. It started with the flyby nerf. When flyby was nerfed, it was because, from a design standpoint, they didn't intend for it to be a primary portion of a single target DPS priority list.
Mm-hmm.
And so they nerfed it. At that time, they also said that they intended on taking some of those talent points and actually shifting it into the Saboteur tree and having a fuller, more complete, AoE specialization out of Saboteur, and that they were going to be redistributing and changing talent points. After nerfs and changes and everything, I just decided, honestly, I'm going to wait. I put the gunslinger on the shelf because I want to wait until the devs are done making their changes. I mean, these are some of the biggest changes that they've suggested for any class, that they're actually moving ability perks and primes from one tree to another and readjusting stuff. So I'm just waiting for them to finish that. I will totally go back, and I've got no problem with that. As it happened, at the same time that occurred, I was also maxing out my Vanguard, and I wanted to try something else. And so it was an excellent opportunity for me to learn a new class that I'd never really played and play it out. I can't remember how far you read. Did you talk about the OP?
I'm going on
Yes,
to the
you did. Yes,
to the
you did.
long. Yeah.
Okay, so and the other thing is that Vanguards aren't OP right now. When you look at the leaderboards, the strongest classes right now are Sages, Guardians, and Operatives. Operatives presumably healers, because we know they're still complaining about their own damage output. So Vanguards are actually in a really good place right now. I'm happy with that. I haven't changed because they're not flavor of the month. I really enjoy this class. I've been learning it, and I'm getting pretty good at it. It's a lot of fun. I don't really have any intention of playing a Sage or a Sork. It's just not an appealing class playstyle to me. Large portion of that might just be because I haven't dedicated time to it. But now, totally on a different tangent, if you're talking about switching to Assault Specialist as opposed to Tactics, absolutely. I'm going to be exploring that. I'm going to play with it, and if it's the most effective utilization of my PvP experience, yeah, I'm going to go for it. Apparently, they've got a goal that the DPS output for every talent or tree is supposed to be on par. I didn't think that was the philosophy. I've never considered that to be the philosophy. I always figured that certain trees, they have a different play style and they have a different role and purpose for the game. And I'm just like gear. I'm going to play the spec that maximizes my returns. I do think that utility has a lot of value, which is why I may return to tactical specialist or tactics after I experiment with Assault Specialist, because I don't think that raw damage output is what PvP is entirely about. But if I think that it outweighs the utility that Tactics provides, then yeah, I'll stay an Assault Specialist. I'm going to play PvP to win. As an advanced class, I'm going to play the tree that it takes to win for PvP, no matter what that is. That's
Okay.
I play to win,
Yep. All right. Nathaniel continues, do you think maybe BioWare or EA is just wanting to occupy people with re-rolling Flavor of the Month rather than truly seeking to level the playing field? Is this a plan to keep people subscribing? It's not a totally crazy conspiracy theory if you think about it. Every time you make a character, you're more likely to pay for emotes, titles, vehicles, and so on, unlocks, character perks, and perhaps even cartel packs to obtain items that the character might like to have.
No, not a chance. This is not what they're doing. That's not why they're doing it. Absolutely not. It's just crazy conspiracy thinking.
Well,
They are
because of
really
that,
trying to balance this stuff as best they can.
Yeah, the problem is the presumption is that, this is a heavily PvP-centric conversation, and BioWare's not making decisions on the entire game based off of PvP, period. They might be doing... And the other thing is flip side. That's why I'm really excited about frequent class changes. And this actually came up in the conversation with Keyboard Ninja. Frequent class changes are good for everybody for multiple reasons. It's not just because in PvP it's like content and you're relearning your own class in order to how to play against the changes to other classes or your own class. But the other thing is that there are people that they get it. One, they're not going to stop playing the class or the talent tree that they like because they know changes are coming soon. That's a great feeling. Like, okay, I still really like this. I'll just wait. Class changes are happening. The other side of it, too, is some people just get it in their head. Like, okay, oh, this is supposed to be the completely nerfed spec. I'm going to totally prove everybody wrong. I'm going to stick to this and figure it out. And when frequent class changes happen, it's a very good thing. So I think, if anything, you might have been able to come up with that conspiracy theory in the past, but the direction BioWare's been going, that's clearly not the case. It's exciting to see exactly what BioWare's doing right now. I fully support their business and development plan right now.
They're doing it to try to balance. That's all. They don't want to make more money this way. They'll sell you crap on the cartel market instead. That's how they try to make money.
Yeah.
All right. Ferris Terran wrote, noticed another Manon reference. One of the Jedi Knight companions mentioned working for a senator from there.
There you go. Manan is coming in 2.9.
Oh, and by the way, Sotor Miner just mentioned he did the check. It's 50 explosions.
Right. No, that's 50 achievement points.
Oh, so what is it? Blew up a smuggler's luck or a kingpin bounty slot machine. Maybe it's just once then.
Yeah, but
Yeah, that's
No.
what. First comment. You only have to blow one up. Quality assurance. Blew up a smuggler's luck or kingpin bounty slot
There
machine.
you go.
well, that'll come pretty quickly then. Cool.
What's strange is that it's 50 achievement points and it comes with the title The Unlucky. Don't you already get the Unlucky from dying to Lucky on Corellia?
Maybe
Yeah.
there's two ways to get it now.
Interesting.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Somehow
Also,
I'll go
the
back and
legacy
edit that.
title. Is that different from the title you get from being killed by the world boss? Is it not a legacy title? Is it like a individual character title?
Yeah, it is. You're right. Legacy title would be the difference.
Okay.
And I did try to stop TO and fully restate, so it should make it easier for the editing.
Alright. You only need to blow up one machine to get this.
Yes.
Maybe I'll cut that back in later. We'll see.
All right. Is it Darklighter or is it Darlighter? I thought it was
Darklighter.
That's what I
You're
thought.
correct.
Okay. At Darklighter159 sent in a picture of a majestic creature from the ice planet Hoth.
It's actually a very short video on lolsnaps.com,
Okay.
and I just took a screenshot. But yeah,
That's funny. The screenshot is hilarious. It's a pug in
dog.
a Wampa outfit. That's pretty hilarious.
yes.
Dude, but, okay, first, how did they get that dog into that outfit? Because that looks like skin tight all the way down the legs.
Yeah.
You have to watch the video.
Do you? Okay.
All right.
Because I also just feel really bad for that dog. He's got to be overheating like mad.
Oh.
All right. At Sibisaria, FYI, Dark Eclipse is the 16-man raiding guild I'm in on
Jedi
Covenant. Right. Definitely some bosses easier on 8 and some on 16.
Yeah, I guess we're beginning to experience that. So I got to say, 16 man, very cool having 16 players. Just
Yeah, it's fun.
yeah, really was.
At Shadrasa, just came home from work, tuned into OotiniCast. Thank you for the promo for the SWTOR fanfic challenge, guys.
No worries. We'll link the details once more in the show notes this week. So, Rob budding writers out there, why not?
Yep. Griggles wrote 2 nights in a row. I'm 2 for 2 on wins on the imp side for dailies. I'm thinking a late night APAC is the time to queue.
Asia Pacific, that is. How about that?
I will tell you absolutely 5:30 to midnight Eastern, so 2:30 to 9 p.m. West Coast on the Bastion. Do not queue pubside.
Okay.
After doing this for as long as I have, week to week to week, that is when all of the worst players on the planet show up. And that is absolutely when I saw that gunslinger.
Okay. Kuze, who was, of course, a recent guest, wrote in, just sitting around getting boned. And he's got a nice little screenshot. I guess that's
Which I'll
somewhere
include in the
touch
show notes. That is from our 16-man raid when we're doing
Oh,
Thrasher.
is it? That's
Yes.
awesome.
Yes, it is.
And let's see. I think it's time for BioWare to give everyone a new... This is still Kuze, correct?
Mhm.
Okay, Kuze continues. I think it's time for BioWare to give everyone a new video or update. I'm sure they're holding out for the next Cantina event.
That's a good point. Given we'll be getting one next week. Interesting. I assume maybe this will be the big reveal on how you actually do your decorating in your strongholds.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Yep.
It'd be nice.
All right. And who knows, maybe even the first teaser about the end of year update.
Indeed. Yes, indeed.
Yeah. Obviously, they wouldn't give any details about that until until we're a little bit past the this current expansion.
Do you think they'll say something at the community cantina next week about the X Pack that's coming at the end of the year? I mean, that's 6 months away.
I think it's possible. I think they might start to tease it around now. But we wouldn't
I'm really looking forward to
we wouldn't get very
now.
much. Yeah, we wouldn't get very much.
There might be something with thumb drives though.
Yes. Maybe some assets.
Because they'll be in E3, correct? That's next week.
Is that the? I thought that was the second one. Where was it?
I thought it was Comic-Con, actually. When is E3? Let's just quickly look that up, just for completeness. E3.
Okay. Get back to the note.
June 10 to 12. Actually, yeah, he's right.
Okay, cool. That's E3.
Okay, so there's a real good chance that they could give at least a hint about the X Pack coming at the end of the year.
Yep.
Excellent point.
I think that's a good point. Of course, it validates what I just said, so I'm happy.
Absolutely.
Dude, even if it's video footage like we received for our GSF in Seattle, chill. I'll be happy. Let people debate. Oh, dude, the expansion, they're putting all of us on rails. What the heck?
Well, there's a lot of the tweets coming from the voice actors for a lot of your companions is saying that they're doing work for BioWare the past couple months. So that's not for nothing.
Yeah, they're getting close. They're getting close. All right. I'm not sure how you pronounce it. Ashish wrote, how's the Galactic Starfighter scene on the Harbinger? Are the factions roughly even? I'm thinking about rolling a tune there. Thanks. The last time we were playing...
Yeah.
Well, it started out, the Republic side was really stomping, but about the time that I was going back to leveling and everything else, it was getting pretty even, actually.
Yeah, it was.
Still slightly more Republic heavy, but the Empire were starting to get their act together.
There were some dominant pre-mades on both sides, which were extremely effective. So if you're in one of those guilds or groups, you were fine. If you weren't, you got screwed, typically, unless you got lucky and ended up with them. And yeah, but basically both factions are pretty strong.
When's the last time either of you did GSF?
I don't remember.
The last time I played GSF was the last double XP weekend because it was pretty good XP for double XP. It wasn't good XP for regular XP, but when you double XP weekend, I got tired of KDY. I think I did a few GSF missions.
Okay, cool.
Are you on Harbinger too?
Yes.
I was just curious because I've had a few people asking me about Q-Pops on the Bastion. And our Q-Pops are still popping pretty good. Maybe not as good as they were a couple months ago, but still quick. I mean, you're not going to be waiting more than 2 minutes.
That is pretty good.
So. I can't speak to balance though. I think just because of the nature of the guests that we've had on before, and the whole Red Mist Squadron, which they changed their name on the Imperial side, but um, a lot of the guys that are real serious about GSF on the Bastion, they're so proactive about switching factions in order to create balance. Like if they see that it's getting really heavy for one side or the other, they'll go to the weak side and provide support. Which I mean, it's such a cool thing to see people do that.
But that's on the Bastion, correct?
Yeah, that's Bastion.
All right. Let's see. JB wrote, finally hit Legacy 50. Total time / played on all my tunes, 63 days, 41 minutes. Nice.
Wow.
Broke 2 months.
Yeah, I hate to think if I added all mine up.
Yeah,
Be a little terrifying,
think I'll be doing that
actually.
anytime soon.
Maybe that's our Freaky Friday challenge. Add up.
Yeah, terrifying.
Maybe later.
Shamar of the Old Republic Dads on the Shadowlands wrote, I really enjoyed the discussion on theory crafting recently. Red mentioned in the last episode that he had intentionally stayed away from asking Ufalong about too many numbers. However, I wanted to ask about some hard numbers for maximizing DPS. I have 2 tunes that I play with regularly, a Sharpshooter Gunslinger and a DPS Shadow. Since the best advice I've received so far about increasing DPS with my Shadow is roll a different class, and since Red plays a Gunslinger, I'd like to ask about some hard numbers or target numbers to reach with surge, crit, power, and accuracy. For example, my current stats on my Gunslinger are as follows. Where do they need to be so I can focus on different mods and enhancements to buy? And I'll run through these real quick. Power 722, accuracy 455. Basic accuracy is 90% plus 10.2.5%. Special attacks is 100% plus 10.25%. Critical chance is 30.03. Critical rating is 591 plus 10%. Critical multiplier is 66.19% with a surge of 253 to get that.
So can we answer this?
Yeah. I mean, there are some basic things I can absolutely answer. Accuracy. Looks like you're about exactly right. Take one piece off, and if you're still over 10%, then you can replace that enhancement or whatever it is that's... Well, I guess it's enhancement, right? You can't get accuracy on a mod, can you?
I thought you could, but
No.
maybe not.
Right, yeah,
No,
so...
not on a mod. On an enhancement, yes. Mod, no.
Right, so... If you can remove one piece of item, one piece of gear, and it drops you below 10%, you need that piece. If you're over 10%, i.e. if you're over 100% for ranged basic accuracy, not tech, you want to be over, but as close to over as possible. Right. Then everything else is surge. You should have 0 alacrity, which you didn't report it, so I'm assuming you don't. Your surge is not competing with anything else at that point. Your crit chance is way too high. Definitely. I'd take off at least 200 for your critical rating, which will go straight into boosting your power. You'll easily be able to break another, well, take 200 off, so that's going to be, you're going to be nearing 1,000 power. You're going to be 900 something, 922 plus. Yeah, that's what I would advise. I'm not sure on the critical rating. You might, at that point, once you've done that, I would say dabble with it. See if you can remove more. And maybe keep one piece, take off 200, keep one, and then add it back and see. But I would definitely start at removing 200 critical rating.
Right.
Okay.
Does the surge seem about right to you? It's not that many points, but it seems to have reached sort of the belly of the curve. So
it's a percentage you'd want to see.
Yeah.
Yeah, 66.
The only reason that would be low is if there was alacrity that he's not reporting. If you do have any alacrity, remove it.
All right. At One Big Boar wrote, I was listening to the episode 140, and you tossed out a comment that the Kingpins are hard to solo. I tried to solo one when they first came out, and I died so often I got embarrassed and stopped trying. So with that knowledge, I may try again. And yes, my gear is crap, and I do not represent top-tier skill either. With this information, I will take defeat as less of a personal affront.
And that is, of course, from Bounty Contract Week. Yes, those Kingpins are group, or at least heroic 2+ or 4. So, yeah.
Yeah, they're labeled that way for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
Usually, if you stand there long enough, someone will show up, though.
True.
Straight to the digest, Joel.
Yes, that'll bring us to the Sarlacc Digest, where we go over the issues for 1,000 years. And two, you want to lead us in a discussion about add-ons.
Just a very brief one. We had a comment from Gridam Dord, where he said, one of the things you guys didn't mention in your UI discussion is any parsing programs you have. Do you use Parsec? If so, how is it set up with the rest of your UI? What pop-outs? Might be good to include rating UIs / soloing UIs, etc. So let's talk about add-ons. Now, firstly, as everyone knows, SWTOR does not have add-ons in the sense that the game incorporates them directly, as in WoW is the most obvious example. Instead, people have written third-party programs that will run parallel with, simultaneously with the game itself. And if you're running in windowed mode, full screen windowed or just regular windowed, you can actually have various windows pop up. For example, the most common usage that we've used is parsing programs. We used to use one called Mox. Now, what that does is read your combat log in real time and report the numbers of your DPS or healing. And if you connect them to the other people in your raid, and this is a service the add-on provider provides, you can actually see what everyone is doing. So, in effect, as long as everyone... Well, for everyone in your raid or group who is running them, you can actually see a DPS table, just like in the old DPS parsers back in WoW. As I said, we used to use Mox, but when Parsec came out, we switched to it. It effectively does the same thing, but it has a really clean UI. It's very pretty, very functional, and extremely useful. Now, the pop-outs that I personally use as a raid leader is top raid DPS, raid healing, threat sometimes when we're having problems, and there's also just a summary that just shows the combat time for the fight and things like that, and just overall numbers. That's what I use. Also, I'll just mention in passing that Parsec has recently introduced a feature called timers, which work pretty much the same as MSC6, which is the add-on that Kuze talked about a few months back. What that does is, again, read your combat log and look for things like particular buffs and effects, and will give you a visual and audio, well, mainly an audio indication of like you getting a particular buff, which for proc classes where you have procs going off is really useful. The only downside is because of the way the combat log is written, it like writes only every 5 minutes. It writes only every like half a second or so. There may be a slight delay between getting the proc and getting the audio announcement from it. So, but yeah, timers are now in Parsec as well, and they actually work pretty well. I was playing with it. We were playing with it yesterday.
Yeah, usually because I keep the top part of my UI clean. Normally, that's where I put my raid frame. These Parsec windows are up there. Right. I do keep the overall DPS one, even though as a tank it doesn't really do me that much good. And then more recently, I've definitely been keeping the threat one up there because, like in the old WoW, the add-ons could actually ask the game directly, how much threat do I have exactly, and it would tell it exactly immediately. So it was a little quicker to respond. This is more having to add things up and so on. So the threat runs a little behind, but it still overall is very useful, and it lets me know if someone is maybe catching up with me on certain fights and so on, and if I need to hit an ability or something like that.
What about you, Red? Do you guys use any add-ons when you raid?
I use Parsec, and I do enjoy it quite a bit. For ops anyway. I don't care about it for PvP. The board at the end tells me what I need to know. Unfortunately, I have 3 additional monitors, so I don't have anything overlay my game.
Right.
I don't use anything.
You should try, Spencer. Try getting Parsec. I'll include the link for everyone and where to get it. It's really, really easy to just download and run. It's very clean interface. So why not?
It was actually pretty. I'd never used it before, and I only recently have used it a few times because I started doing operations again in Dark Knight Reapers, Imperial Side, the Bastion, Lethal X Bacon has brought me in there, and I've done a few with them, so they had me install it. I was impressed. This definitely seems to be a really nice app. I will say for anybody that's like hesitant or worried about using parsers, you can always turn off the share with other people. It's really great to see your own numbers, and those people that are, on the top will be bragging and saying in voice what their numbers are, and you can compare yourself. No joke, when I've been nervous and joining a new group, I'm always self-conscious, like I'm not as good, and usually after 3 or 4 pools, I turn mine on and share it with the group because I realize, okay, I'm doing okay. I don't need to be embarrassed here.
Yeah, there's another good thing that you can use these Parsec parsers for, and that's you can look at them and it'll tell you what percentage of your damage or healing is being done by what ability, and that can really tell you like which of my abilities are really pulling their weight, which ones are actually not that great or whatever. Yeah. In some cases, you can get ideas like I've noticed that there's in the tanking trees, there's ones that increase like the damage from your stance and stuff like that. But it turns out, that stance damage is maybe 5% of your overall damage, and when it increases, it goes up from 5 to 5.5%, and yet you're putting multiple points into it, and it's just not worth it. And those points are much better spent on one of your regular saber strikes or whatever. Right. So you can use that ability to figure out, okay, these are my real heavy hitters. I got to make sure that these don't get interrupted. I got to make sure that the procs are going off for them correctly and that sort of thing. And you can really learn about your about your whole spec that way. Also, Tio, what was the name of that one add-on that was mostly focused on letting you know like when cooldowns were up and so on, and when new buffs and debuffs had gone on, like giving you sounds?
That was MSE6 or is MSE6.
Well, there was another one though. There was one before that one, but unfortunately that was on my old computer, and I'm not sure if it's still used.
Yeah, Tor Assistant.
Tor Assistant, that's the one. Yes. I'm unfortunately, like I said, I haven't used it on the new computer. But if it still works with the current patches and so on, I was getting into that on my old computer, and I should probably set it up on the new one because there's certain specs where it's really helpful to know. Okay, yeah, that one 18-second cooldown ability is finally coming around again, and I need to get on that.
Chill, I would strongly recommend you have a look at the timers function in Parsec, which basically does exactly that now.
Yeah, it seemed to have like a list for each spec,
right.
And I liked that to some degree. But with the other one, with Tor Assistant, you could actually tell it to look for a certain like string. You could actually name it, and it would look for that, and
right.
And it would give you that warning. So you could also, there were some cases where you could actually tell it to look for things that, otherwise it wouldn't look for, like certain, buffs on bosses and stuff like that.
Okay. All right.
Ghost Mirror is mentioning in the chat room concerning this that he is parsing all the time when he goes onto the dummies, which is worth restating also if you're a PvPer. The dummies on the fleets now have an object next to them called the Bolsterizer. If you click on that, it applies the PvP bolster to you as a buff, so you can find out exactly where you stand, and then if you attack that dummy, you're going to be able to get the benefits or negatives of that to play with it. I still would say there's 2 things that are a drawback for that in PvP. A lot of times you're going to be a target as a non-tank that often has some sort of feedback, or if you're getting attacked, some kind of damage is going back at your target or whatever, depending on what class you are, of course. And the other thing is that it also neglects the value of any kind of utility. So your numbers might be low. It's definitely a good way to maximize your priority for how to play whatever spec you choose to play, but don't totally make your decision based off of raw damage output for PvP.
And of course, Bolsterizer is the perfect way to exploit the bolstering system, if you're into that kind of thing.
Or at
Which
least
I'm sure
define
no
the
one is.
exploits, right? I haven't done it. And I haven't heard of
Alright.
anything that recently that's really, if you're in Brutalizer, even with the Bolsterizer, you're still pretty much where you need to be.
Yeah, that's not quite true. There are some exceptions. I'll link to the post, which explains exactly what you need to do to maximize that if you're into it. Anyway, all right, let's finish the discussion there, though I will say that next week our guest is our fellow raider Pez, and he's going to be talking about how to actually use parsing programs like Parsec on the dummy and the most effective way of doing that and strategies for maximizing your DPS, sort of along the lines of what Chill was talking about. But anyway, that'll be Pez next week.
All right. Then that's a show. If you'd like to play with us in the Utini Knights Guild on the Republic side of the Harbinger server, or in our
Utini Rage
Guild on the Empire side, do a /c join Utini to join the Utini channel. Then ask for the quiz that lets us know you're a fan of the show. You can email questions and comments about the show to OotiniCast@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter. We're on @OotiniCast. I Twitter under my own name @Brandon L. Starr, and Teo uses his name @Jason Etheridge. Spencer Twitters under @da_dirty_spoons. And Red Twitters under @R3DN4, or watch him on twitch.tv/R3DN4. Check out our website, OotiniCast.com, which has links to our presence on Google Plus and Facebook. You can subscribe to us on iTunes, and we're also on Stitcher. We record the show live every Wednesday, usually, at 4:30 p.m. Pacific. Go to OotiniCast.com/live to find out how to join in. Our theme song is from Mevio's Music Alley. Check it out at music.mevio.com. That's MEVIO. And thank you to our chat room. And thank you, Spencer and Red.
Anytime.
Thanks again, guys.
And we'll see you next week.
Chat
right.
room.
Guys, could you stop your recording right there? Just stop it. Do not exit the program, Spencer. Not that I thought you would, but
Nope.
don't.
It'll give him all sorts of warnings if he tries.
That's true. All right, chat room. Thank you very much. I didn't want to get too early in case Teo wanted to slap me for having
Con is a strong shocker.
Oh. All right, guys. Thank you very much for coming. At least as far as I know right now, we will be back to Wednesday next week. So, usual time. So, have a great week.
Can I
Thank
just
you
say
again.
something before you kill it? Real
Yes.
quick? Chat room. Be excited. Keyboard Ninja. Very cool little thing that came up is that he has ideas for the parsers and everything that they could actually utilize and incorporate in order to give a phenomenal benefit to tanks when it comes to gearing and everything, and how to play their classes better with instantaneous feedback. I was really fascinated by it.
Very cool.
Oh, cool. All right, that interview will be published on Monday next week. In theory, assuming once I edit it and stuff.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, guys. Thank you, and see you next week. Stopping the broadcast.